reality. The city built on the Mount Zion, Jerusalem city is our home. We see there by His way. In the name of Jesus, we will all be our home. We will all be our home. We are reality. The city built on the Mount Zion, Jerusalem city is our home. Reality. The city built on the Mount Zion, Jerusalem city is our home. We see there by His way. In the name of Jesus, we will all be our home. We will all be our home. We are reality. The city built on the Mount Zion, Jerusalem city is our home.
Pastor Oluwarotimi Peter is one of the end-time ministers sent about 3 decades ago with the message, "Go and deliver my people from the hands of devil." He is an author of the book, The Secret Covenant, and about other 50 books. He holds conference and outreaches within and outside Akure, Ondo State, Nigeria. He is the president of Reality Global Network online program and the general overseer of Power of His Reality Church. Let us listen to this message. It shall turn to your testimony.
Liability, whatever that takes money from you, you know. God bless you.
Amen.
Oluwarotimi is my name. I broadcast from Reality Global Network. This is morning dew that comes up 3 times in a week, and on Monday, on Thursday, also on Saturday. We are in morning dew specialized for dream fulfilling. That is the dream and the dreamer and his dream. By the special grace of God, God has used this program to touch many lives, to change many destiny, in which I believe you are one of them. There is an inconclusive episode. That is when I was talking about the place of funding in dream fulfilling. It was not completed. So I want to complete the episode. That is the place of funding in dream fulfilling. In what aspect I did not complete it? That is the borrowing aspect. Even the issue of borrowing. The issue of borrowing is a very sensitive thing. Some people have been bankrupt because of the issue of borrowing. They are borrowed. They didn't borrow wisely. I said it in the previous episode that I personally don't really like the concept of borrowing. But in case if you don't borrow wisely, you may pay for it. You may regret for what you have done, because it's not the act of borrowing per se, but it's because of failing to borrow rightly. Some people borrowed wrongly, and they have to use their dream to pay for it. So that is why I want to educate you in this episode about the issue of borrowing, which I tagged "If I choose to borrow." If I choose to borrow. So in case you choose to borrow, then I want to give you education of what to do for you not to be bankrupt because of the act of borrowing. So there are some things I'm going to spare you and going to tell you. I'll give you 4 things you need to know. In fact, not only to tell you, please, anybody around you that want to embark on business, embark on dream fulfilling, please, what I'm sharing with you, also share with them. In case if you are falling by the wrong act of borrowing, learn from this so that you don't fall into it again. Then number one thing I want to tell you, if you choose to borrow, is what I call spend it productively. Spend the money you borrow. You know, the money you borrow is not your money anyway. I think you know that. It's not your money. Whatever you borrow is not your money. Don't, until you pay it back, don't see it as your money. It's your money, it's somebody else's money. So if you don't manage somebody else's money well, do you know it can end you in jail? It can end you in jail forever. So if you are to borrow, please, the money you borrow, you must spend it productively. So how to spend it productively, I'll also break it down for you. I will tell you how you can spend the money you borrow productively. There are some dots which I'm going to tell you now. Number one is, I say, don't spend it on liability. Don't spend the money on liability. Don't spend the money you borrow on liability. Don't spend the money you borrow on liability. For instance, liability is the car you are riding. The car, whatever takes money from you is liability. Whatever that takes money from you, I didn't return it back to you. Your personal car is a liability to you. The house you built, in times as far as business is concerned, the house you built is not an asset, it's a liability to you. So if you now use the money you borrow for liability, like buying car, like building house, you are writing for problem, and you eventually find yourself in problem you don't bargain for. So don't spend the money you borrow on liability. And then number two, don't spend the money you borrow on paying salary. It's only Nigeria we see our government and leaders borrowing money to pay salary. So spend it productively. I said the one way to spend it productively is don't spend it on liability. Number two, don't spend it on paying salary. Don't use the money you borrow to pay salary. So if you use the money to pay salary, the money you borrow to pay salary today, you must pay salary next month. Then where will you get the money? Number one, you don't get the money you pay for salary in the next month. The one you used last month to pay salary is already become indebtedness on you. So that's not productive way of managing resources. So number three, if you are to borrow, number three things you must understand is, don't spend the money you pay productively. Don't spend it on charity. Don't spend it on charity. That charity is caring for people. Don't use it to give it to people, to care for people, to care for the needy. The money you borrowed is not the money you use for charity. You say because the Bible says I have to take care of the widow, I have to take care of the fatherless. That's immaterial. You don't spend the money you borrow on charity. But before I give you the next, let's quickly have a break.
Keep watching Reality TV. Thanks.
Reality Global Network, as is being mentioned, the word reality is a ministry, is a name of a ministry. When I say a ministry, there's a ministry here in Nigeria where God has changed many lives. God has used the ministry to impart many people home and abroad. And there are many things I will still say about the ministry, which time will not permit me now. So the name of the ministry is Reality. Then the Global Network, the online program we are now, the platform, the name of the platform is Reality Global Network. So the word global there means the program is not a local program. It's not meant for a set of people. Is for everybody. That's just the meaning of the global. The program, this platform is for everybody. back. Don't forget, you must spend it productively. You must spend it productively. Number one, by not spending it on liability. Number two, by not using it to pay salary. Number three, by not using it on charity. Also, don't use it for savings. You borrow money, you use it for savings. Maybe you are engaged in cooperative, or you are engaged in daily contribution or weekly contribution, as the case may be. You don't use the money. It is the profit you use for savings. So if you use the money you borrowed for savings, then you are saving your problem. You are accumulating your problem. That is, the day of your problem is very close to you. So that is the number one thing. Spend it productively. Under spending it productively, I've given you 4 things. So I want to come to number 2 thing you need to know. If you are to borrow, 2 things you need to know. Number 2 thing you need to know is, don't borrow high rate loan. There are some loan, they will say their loan is 30%. There are some loan, their loan, they may say is 25%. Some they will say is 40%. Like borrowing 1 million naira to pay 250,000 on it. That is 250,000 on 1 million naira. That's very high. So there are some scheme like that. There are some borrowing scheme like that, which they have high rate. So if you borrow from high rate interest, well, if you are unable to pay back, then that will be your whole cup of tea. Then number 3 things I want you to know if you are to borrow is, don't spend it the money at once. For instance, you borrow 500,000 naira to embark on a new business. 500,000 naira on a new business you have never done before. That 500,000 naira, keep the 500,000 naira in the bank and use 150 of the money to start the business. Is that not a wisdom? That means it's like you are keeping the money for the person you borrow. So in case if problem comes, you can quickly use the rest to return the money and look for the one you have spent, then and balance them. But the business you have never done before, you now expended 500,000 at once. So if there is bankruptcy, that means the whole money will go, because you have never tested it before. You have never done it before. So if eventually out of 500,000 naira, you keep 400,000 naira, you start with proving the business, which you have never, because you don't trust the business, you have never embarked on it before. Then you spend 100,000 naira. If anything happened to 100,000 naira, you still have 400,000 naira. You just look around and look for how you can get the 100,000 naira that have been swallowed up by the business. Then you pay it back to the owner of the business, to the owner of the scheme. So don't expend the whole money at once. And then number 4 is, please be faithful to the agreement of the loan. Be faithful to the agreement. That's why you have to think before you borrow. There must be an agreement between you and your borrower. He is the lender. You and your lender, rather. He is the lender, you are the borrower. There must be an agreement. Agreement of the time to pay the money, agreement of the percentage, an agreement of how the money will be paid. So the moment you enter into the agreement with your lender, please make sure, try as much as possible to fulfill your own part, for 2 reasons. Number 1, to maintain your integrity. Then number 2 is because of the nearest future. Because if you pay it in time, a time is coming when your business is getting wider, that you may need huge amount of money, larger than the one you borrowed before. So if you pay it at when due, then your lender can confidently give you even double or thrice of what you have borrowed before. That is the principle of how to borrow. That is if you are to borrow. Well, we'll meet again in the next episode. I am Oluwarotimi Peter. I broadcast from Reality Global Network.
I will stand upon my watch, and set me upon the tower, and I will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision, and make it plain upon the table, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Beloved, I want to introduce you to an online series of teaching tagged The Dreamer and His Dream, anchored by Pastor Oluwarotimi Peter, an online teacher of the word. This teaching is a deed that called the deed. It is an eyes-opening and anointed teaching which God has used to give direction to many. If you are at the T-junction of life, please connect to Reality Global Network, both on Facebook and on YouTube. You will meet the previous episode that will connect you to the program live on every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday respectively at 6 a.m. No dream, no life, no life, no destiny. Join the generation of Joseph today. Share it, like it, and drop your comment. Jesus remains the Lord.